"I'm just a perfectionist, I have really high standards," is the framing that keeps perfectionism looking admirable, even something to list on a job application, instead of looking honestly at what's actually driving it underneath. The reality check. Psychological research distinguishes clearly between healthy striving and clinical perfectionism, and the difference isn't the height of the standard. It's the emotional mechanism underneath it. Healthy striving is driven by approach motivation, genuine excitement about a positive outcome, curiosity, mastery for its own sake. Perfectionism, in the clinical sense, is driven by avoidance motivation, specifically fear of failure, fear of judgment, or fear that an imperfect result reveals something shameful and true about your fundamental worth as a person. The science behind this distinction shows up clearly in how each version responds to setbacks. Someone with healthy high standards, when a project falls short, typically experiences disappointment, a specific and time-limited emotion tied to the outcome itself, followed by a return to baseline mood and motivation. Someone driven by perfectionistic fear, when a project falls short, typically experiences something closer to shame, a diffuse, identity-level emotion. Not "that attempt didn't work," but "I am inadequate," which tends to produce paralysis or avoidance rather than the renewed motivation that disappointment alone usually allows. A concrete example makes the distinction vivid. Two people submit work that receives critical feedback. The first, operating from healthy striving, feels a sting, reviews the feedback, and revises with renewed focus within a day or two. The second, operating from perfectionistic fear, experiences the same feedback as confirmation of a private, long-held fear about their own inadequacy, and either over-revises obsessively far past the point of diminishing returns, or avoids the project entirely for a stretch of time, unable to face it. Same external event. Radically different internal mechanism and radically different behavioral outcome. This reframe also explains a specific, common experience that pure, high standards framing never quite accounts for. Why perfectionism so often produces less output, not more, despite the apparent extra effort involved. Fear-driven avoidance produces procrastination, project abandonment, and an inability to ship anything perceived as less than flawless, all of which reduce actual output and actual growth. Compared to someone with genuinely high standards who ships imperfect work consistently and improves through iteration, rather than through unattainable preemptive perfection. The action worth taking, once perfectionism is correctly identified as fear rather than as elevated taste. The actual leverage point isn't lowering your standards, which tends to feel threatening and rarely sticks as an approach. It's addressing what a flawed outcome is actually threatening about your sense of self-worth underneath the standard. A specific, practical starting exercise. Complete a low-stakes task deliberately imperfectly on purpose, and observe directly what specific fear surfaces in that moment, being seen as lazy, being judged as untalented, disappointing someone specific. Naming that underlying fear precisely tends to be far more useful than any generic advice to simply let go of perfectionism, because you're finally addressing the actual mechanism instead of its visible symptom. There's a specific detail worth adding about why perfectionism is so difficult to recognize in yourself, even once you understand the theory. It's frequently praised and rewarded externally, at least for a while. Praise for meticulousness, promotions for thoroughness, admiration for high standards, all of this positive reinforcement makes the underlying fear mechanism harder to identify, because the behavior it produces genuinely does yield real-world rewards, at least in the short term, before the cost of the avoidance and paralysis starts outweighing the benefit of the occasional polished result.